Hi folks, I'm back. James here with you on this rather gloomy Monday morning. There's been storms here overnight, obviously not as bad as the horrendous storms that are happening in Florida right now, and sending thoughts out to everybody who's out there going through that absolute nightmarish disaster. Just unbelievable. Yeah. I'm back for another Vinyl Finds video. It's been a long time. I apologise. Should I apologise? I just sort of decided to take August off. Had a couple of holidays. The clip you just saw just then was a really nice place that we went to in Devon, Ilfracombe, and we stayed in a really lovely apartment at the top of this tall building. We had great views. And had a really great time there. Did some reading, listening to music, relaxing, walking, bodyboarding, all the rest of it. We'd also had a short holiday in Wales as well, near Bangor, Anglesey, and that was good fun too. You saw some footage of it there, hopefully, if I managed to edit it in. I didn't buy that many records, both in Devon and in Wales. There was a real kind of dearth, really. Ilfracombe had one charity shop, and it didn't have any records in it at all. Didn't see anything in Wales either. So, but fortunately, I've been busy elsewhere, so I have some things to show you. So, yeah, it's been a bit weird being away from the VC. I had decided to have a complete break and not even kind of watch any videos, and I kind of realised quite quickly that I didn't really want to do that. I didn't want to sort of sever my connection with people. I wanted to carry on watching, and I kind of wanted to carry on commenting as and where I could. So I, as you'll have noticed, I kind of haven't really been away. I've been away from making videos, but I've not been away, from watching them. And it's been interesting seeing how the VC kind of rolls on in your absence. I'd sort of recommend it if anybody out there hasn't had a break for a while. Not a kind of big long break, but just take a couple of weeks off, and it's quite interesting. It's almost like being dead. You sort of imagine being dead and the world just sort of carries on in your absence. It's quite strange because you think, well, okay, I could just drop out of this forever and it would just carry on, but after a while, obviously, you want to get back to it. Anyway, rambling. So I kind of had a summer of two artists who all of a sudden I just thought, right, I just want to listen to them, two artists that I love anyway, but I just decided to get further into their work and just get some stuff that I hadn't got. So I picked up a copy of Sorcerer by Miles Davis, which is another of the albums he made with the great quintet featuring Herbie Hancock and the drummer Tony Williams. He made more albums with that lineup than I actually realised. There's kind of ESP and Miles and Neferetti and various other ones, but there's a lot more. So I picked up that one, and it's a fantastic kind of free-blowing set. I wanted it on vinyl, but it was too expensive, really. And the other artist that I decided to get a bit more heavily into, because just before I went away for the summer, I pulled out this album, a bit of glare there, sorry. This is Street Legal by Bob Dylan. Now, I've had this in my collection for absolutely years, and I bought it at the time from Oxfam for 99p, and it was just a record that I hadn't got round to. I think I had this idea that it was maybe one of his more sort of dodgy 80s albums. And then I think it was John Heaton doing a review, and he gave it a really strong review. So I pulled it out, and my goodness, what a great sounding record this is. It's one of Dylan's best sounding albums. I mean, I couldn't grasp exactly. I mean, it was recorded at Rundown Studios, Santa Monica in California. And it says Captain in Charge is Don DeVito. I'm not sure if he's the producer of the set, but it's a great sounding album. It really does sound very live. It's got a really great sounding drum kit, bass drum, and the arrangements are all really kind of crackling and live. Great songs as well, brilliant songs. Changing of the Guards, Is Your Love in Vain, just a really great set by Dylan. I loved it so much that I decided I had to buy it on CD in order to get it onto the iPod. So I bought a CD copy of that and spent a large portion of the summer listening to those two. So let's quickly run you through some of the vinyl I picked up over the summer, and I'll kind of quickly tell you where I bought them. And I'm not going to go into a big long thing about what I think of them, because I don't want this video to be too long. I picked up a copy of Under the Red Sky by Dylan because I got it on CD and took it away with me on holiday. Really loved it. Not one of his more kind of critically lauded albums. It was recorded at the time when he was working with the Travelling Wilburys, and a few of the songs sound a little bit tossed off, you know, lyrically. But it was much better than I thought it was going to be. Some great tracks like Under the Red Sky, Unbelievable, Handy Dandy, which is a great song. I actually like this album. I would not place this down at the bottom of any list of good albums by Dylan. So I enjoyed that one, Under the Red Sky. I think it came out in 1990, not sure, early 90s, 92 maybe. Before I went away, I picked up this reissue. Jeff Party alerted me to it. This is the Kinks album, Face to Face, one of my favourite albums by them. And it comes on this rather divine red vinyl. Look at that. Really good sound on this one. Yeah, I mean, the Kinks, I'd love to get all the great Kinks albums on vinyl if I could. They're not the cheapest band to collect, but I thought I'd go for this one because it is an album that I'm really fond of. It just contains some fantastically bleak tracks. Most Exclusive, Residence for Sale, you know, which is one of Ray Davies's great songs, you know, narrated from the point of view of somebody who's about to get their house repossessed. Only Ray Davies could write a song like that. Session Man, which is a really, really funny, cynical track about session men. A bit sneery, really. You know, Ray Davies could be a bit sneery in his writing, but this is a fantastic record. Party Line, House in the Country, you know, just classic Kinks. Anyway, that was I think that was Amazon. It was a reasonable price. It was probably about maybe 15. Anyway, so in between the holiday in Devon and the holiday in sort of Bangor, Anglesey, I went back to my hometown, Wrexham. I don't go there very often. It's not a particularly lovely town or anything. It's an old sort of market town. I'll try and put a couple of pictures in. And I spent just a morning. Now there's a shop there. When I was a teenager, it used to be called Phase 1 Records. And what was interesting about it was that it was run by one of my ex-teachers. He was an English teacher at the sixth form college I went to, and then he abandoned teaching and became a record shop owner. He had a shop called Phase 1 Records, but then he sold the premises and he's moved down this little kind of alleyway now. And his shop is just called Alan Hughes, and I go there from time to time. And what he's got a big main room downstairs with sort of cheap records, 50p, £1, £1.50, and then you go upstairs round the corner and it's almost like a kind of hidden room. And I made a video about this a while ago, because if you go up there, he has got really good stuff up there, you know, soul and quite rare, well, not rare, but, you know, things that are kind of, you know, desirable records that you don't often see in the wild. He's not cheap, but he's not like extortionate. So I bought a few things from the bargain bins downstairs. This is one I was really pleased to pick up. I'd never seen it in the wild before. A Beard of Stars by TRex. The cover is kind of not in the best shape. I mean, it was really cheap for what it was. I mean, I think it was like, you know, sort of £2. Not an era of TRex that I'm really familiar with. I mean, I know his kind of big hits, 20th Century Boy and Get It On and all those ones, but this contains some of his more sort of far out stuff. Of course, this is not T-Rex, this is Tyrannosaurus Rex, which was the more kind of folk, psychedelic, psych band that he had before he, you know, kind of turned it into the pop group that we know and love as T-Rex. But yeah, I was really pleased to pick that one up. Don't have a great deal of information about it for you, but yeah, just a really good thing to find, you know. And then moving upstairs, these are not particularly interesting, but they're just things that I kind of wanted. For a while now, I've been after a decent Smokey Robinson comp, and I couldn't find one online, really, so I was pleased to get this. There's 20 songs on this, which is a real bargain. And it goes through his kind of classic 60s work, things like, you know, Mickey's Monkey and Going to a Go-Go, Tracks of My Tears, of course, but it's also got his more modern stuff that I really love, that kind of smoochy, smooth soul, you know, things like Being With You and I Don't Blame You At All. I'm going to do a feature on Smokey because he doesn't get much love on the VC, and to me he's one of the all-time great artists. You know, you want to talk about Elvis Presley, you want to talk about, you know, this person, that person. Smokey, you know, he was there right from the start. Bob Dylan called him America's, you know, finest living poet. The Beatles covered his work. Just a brilliant songwriter, not just a singer, a songwriter. I think on this record there are 13 songs out of 20 written by him. You know, he wasn't just a singer. He was a great artist. He was a great songwriter. This one, I pick up Billy Preston albums as and when I see them, which is actually hardly ever. His association with the Beatles is what makes him significant to me. He played on Let It Be, but I've liked what I've heard of his solo stuff. He plays a kind of mixture of, it's kind of gospel, pop, soul, funk, but I kind of saw with this one he's teamed up on this with Cyrita, who I believe was Stevie Wonder's wife or partner. I bought an album a while ago that John Downing recommended, the one, I think it was the Cyrita album, which is produced by Stevie, and I really liked that, so I thought this would be worth a punt. It's a game of two halves. It was recorded, I think, in 1979, so it hasn't got into that kind of naff 80s thing yet, but there's a couple of tracks which are a little bit cheesy soul. Side 2 actually mainly, but side 1 has got some really good funky stuff on it. There's a track called Give It Up Hot, which is great, and the rest of side 1 is okay as well, so I was pleased to get it, and I probably will continue looking for Billy albums as and when I find them. He's passed on now, of course, Billy Preston. And the final two things I got were the expensive ones. I've been looking for a copy of, well, these two albums. I've been looking for decent copies of these for a long time, and I never find decent ones really, but they're kind of cornerstone collection albums. The first King Crimson album, An Observation in the Court of the Crimson King. Don't need to talk too much about this here, you all. Well, perhaps not you all, but some of you will know this one. The archetypal kind of prog masterpiece. Yeah, King Crimson. I've just been after it for so long. And this one, I mean, I think they were each £15, but they're in good condition, you know. Lizard. I haven't listened to this one yet. Don't know that record, but I've heard people talking about it in favourable terms. I think Vinyl Richie mentioned it being better than the first album, so I couldn't leave those two behind, really. Two Crim albums. So that was it for Alan Hughes. Because they were quite expensive, the two Crimson ones came to £30 between them, so I didn't want to sort of splurge. Last time I went there, I think I spent about £70 in there, you know. So the last few that I've got for you are charity shop finds. Bernardo's, I do believe, in Lancaster. Lovely condition copy of one of the trio albums by Linda Ronstadt, Dolly Parton and Emmylou Harris. What a fantastic sounding record. I put this on Facebook and a few people stepped forward to say how much they liked it, and Headley, obviously, you know. Really amazing sound. I don't know what the producer was on, but he's kind of sprinkled magic dust over this. You know, the voices, the instruments, the sound. You know, the sound of the record. Beautiful track list. The song "Farther Along," which I think I've heard that on the Harry Smith folk anthology. I could be mistaken, but kind of really old songs. You know, kind of deep-rooted Americana. The cover might lead you to think it's going to be a bit sort of, dodgy 80s, and it was recorded in the 80s. I believe it was kind of late 80s, but a phenomenal, absolutely brilliant record. Living proof you can pick up fantastic music for very low prices. $2.99 from Bernardo's, and just what a great album. It's just on Warner's. This one wasn't as good, but I'm pleased I got it anyway, because I do love a bit of Bobbie Gentry, and I've only got one album by her. I've got a Music for Pleasure compilation, but it's kind of one of my favourite records, and she has got I think my favourite female vocalist of all time. She's got that kind of sultry quality to her vocals. There's a bit of muck on the back of this one. It's not a bad album. It's not bad. There are some nice tracks. Little Green Apples, Gentle on My Mind, and the song Morning Glory, actually, on the start of side 2, it is a really nice track. But it's kind of interspersed with, I think Headley mentioned this on Facebook too, it's a bit kind of, it's a bit lightweight in places, a bit poppy. I think the choice of material was maybe not as it could have been. But even so, I was pleased to get it, $1.99. The record itself is in good shape. It's on the Green Capital label, even though the sleeve is perhaps not the best. So that was that one. Two more. I picked up this one. I thought this would be a good bet. I used to have a lot more Ray Charles in my collection, and I don't seem to have them. I've got a couple. I've got Genius Hits the Road and a couple of others, but I used to have a lot more, This is a blues set, some blues songs. Hey Now, CC Rider, Blues Is My Middle Name. With, I was going to say, Smokey Robinson, Ray Charles, again, not much love on the VC, but an absolutely seminal artist, The Beatles all looked up to him just as much as they looked up to people like Elvis Presley, and just a great melting pot of a guy, soul, jazz, gospel, country, he did it all. And the thing about Ray Charles is he did it brilliantly. It's very hard to find a bad Ray Charles record, but what appealed to me about this one was it was a blues set, and it's pretty much, it does what it says on the tin, just really, really nice blues renditions by the master. So that's Ray, and that's on the World Club label. I just laughed because of the last record I'm going to show. I was really pleased to pick this up. Now, I don't know how many people are going to know this guy. Some people will. I'm going to make a guess. Maybe Matt Hayes will remember him. Graham will remember him. Headley might remember him. B.A. Robertson. Who remembers B.A. Robertson? Who he is? Three famous songs from the late 70s. Bang Bang, Knocked It Off, and Cool in the Caftan. He was a Scottish singer-songwriter, specialising in kind of very brainy, ironic, slightly irritating pop songs. He ended up having a really successful career, but not as a solo artist. He ended up writing for people like Cliff Richard. I think he wrote the song Carrie, or was it? Yeah, I think it's Carrie. He also wrote with Mike and the Mechanics. I think he co-wrote The Living Years. But before he went on to do all that, he had this kind of briefish solo career, and he made a few albums. This is one of them, Initial Success. I was pleased that it was the one that contained those 3 hits. This was £1.99, so you can't go wrong. I wouldn't put him down as a great artist, but this is certainly a record that I'm pleased to have in the collection, because if you're of a certain age, he was big in the late kind of 1970s when I was first getting into music, and he was always on Saturday morning shows such as Swap Shop. In fact, he actually ended up doing the music for Swap Shop. American viewers will have no idea what I'm talking about, but he was kind of part of the everyday kind of hurly-burly world of pop music in England, in the kind of late 70s, early 80s, and you just never see him anymore. So I just laughed when I saw that record in the racks, and I just thought, yeah, I'll have a bit of that. I'll have a bit of BA. So there we go. That's your lot. I'm going to Well, I've got a couple of big videos in the pipeline. You'll have seen the trailer that I put up. I don't know what people made of that, the Queen trailer. I just thought I'd make a trailer. It's not something that I'm going to do a lot of, but I just figured that I would do it because I've been away for a while, so I thought people might find it quite kind of entertaining. So that's the next video that's coming up, the Queen album rankings. Watch out for that one, and I have a few others in the pipeline as well. So it's great to be back. Big hello to all my subscribers, old and new. Thanks for hanging in there, sticking with me. Hope you've enjoyed this update, and I will see you all very soon. Take care, folks, and bye-bye.